Hmm. Walt, when do you want us to mute and not mute?
If you're not speaking, I would suggest you mute just so there's no background noise so that whoever is speaking, we can hear them clearly. And I will give each of the members an opportunity as we discuss various topics to, unmute your microphone and speak. So I would just say mute it for now.
Hey, Walt, it's Bob. You got me?
Yep, you're loud and clear.
Okay, thanks, Walt.
Yep. Hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Frank's down at the bottom still, he's told me the last time we talked on the phone that he could hear us, but his says muted. There's nothing we can do at our end to unmute.
I did just unmute it. Let's see if that makes a difference. Frank, you can hear us? Can we hear you now? If you're having trouble with the actual link, you can just call in to the numbers in the bottom of that invite. So you could just do it strictly via audio on your cell phone. Okay, the meeting has started live streaming and we are now recording.
Okay, I have 7 o'clock, so we'll get started. Oh, hang on, Frank's calling me. Okay, Frank's going to dial in, but we'll get started until he can get dialed in. So I'm going to call this meeting of the Muhlenberg Township Planning Commission to order. And the first order of business, if we could just rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Just a reminder again that if you are not presently speaking, to mute your microphone so that the meeting could be more efficient. And once again, I want to express my thanks to township staff, Joe Mensch, Jim Bobick, Brian Harris, all for putting this technology together for us. I think it represents a good balance of the Planning Commission being able to continue our work, allow developers in the township to move ahead with their plans, and also give the public an opportunity to participate in our meeting. So thanks to the three of you for getting this all set up for us. I also want to mention that this virtual meeting was advertised. The advertisement was in each of the Planning Commission members' packages that you received today. It was advertised in the Reading Eagle, and it was advertised on the township website. We did give anyone from the public an opportunity to provide any questions or comments they might have on our agenda tonight up until, I believe, 4:30 today. And Joe, I believe we did not receive, or Brian, any comments or questions, correct?
We did not receive any questions to the general mailbox.
Okay.
Whatever works, doesn't it covered? I don't need to do it, but if I can, I will.
I'm not sure who that is that needs to mute their microphone. Hey, Frank, are you on now?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Do you have the ability to do the secretary's report?
Yep. Hold on.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
You got Rob who's still up for that, they don't come, I can help you. All right? Well, thank you, Bob. Good to hear from you, my friend.
I'm looking for the letters. Oh, hold on. We have a letter dated March 16th from the Berks County Planning Commission regarding 1101 Tuckerton Court. And we have a copy of the decision of the Zoning Hearing Board of Muhlenberg Township regarding 1105 Tuckerton Court. I have a letter dated April 15th from Systems Design Engineering regarding 1105 Tuckerton Court. And that's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Next agenda item is acceptance of our minutes of our last meeting. The meeting was held on February 19th, 2020, and those minutes were in the package that each of the members received. If there are no additions or corrections to those minutes, can I have one of the members make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
That's Dave.
Was that Dave?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, Vanessa seconded.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, please unmute members, signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted as submitted.
you.
Okay, our first item of business tonight, I'm just going to move the agenda around a little bit because we do have representatives from Tuckerton Court and System Design Engineering with us this evening. So I'd like to move the Tuckerton Court discussion to be our first agenda item. And with that, I think I'll turn the meeting over to System Design Engineering, and maybe you could provide us an overview of your review.
Thank you, board members. Good to see everyone. You have a copy of the 1105 Tuckerton Court review letter dated April 15th. This is a review number 2. If you remember, this is a plan to add a 25,000 square foot warehouse onto the existing building. Variants, as you noted in your correspondence, were granted. The variants are for impervious coverage to allow up to 69.5%, and also the side yard to allow the side yard to decrease to 28 feet 2 inches. So that's the zoning.
That was also conditioned upon fence being placed at the perimeter, I think of a 4-foot height. And so that was the condition that the zoning hearing board placed in the variance.
So going through zoning, item 1, we just went through the lot coverage requirements. Everything matches, meets the requirements and or the zoning variance. Item 2 is the exterior lighting. We ask that a note be added to the plan stating that lighting will be reduced between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. That's per the zoning ordinance, section 355-107. Item 3, fire access. We note that the fire marshal should be reviewing the plan and making recommendations as to fire access, fire access lane around the building. We ask him to take note that to the south of the building, in the southwest, there are 3 proposed truck parking spaces. And with those 3 parking spaces, if they're occupied, may reduce the firefighting capabilities and the fire access. So we ask that he comment on that item. Next page starts out with the subdivision and land development ordinance regulations. Stormwater management comments we'll get into. E&S control plan is an outstanding item. That's with the Berks County Conservation District for review and approval. The plan needs to be signed and sealed by professional responsible for the plan. And that's items 1. Items 2 deals with studies and assessments. The applicant is requesting and has listed on the plan a request for waivers to the environmental impact assessment, community facilities impact assessment, the traffic impact assessment, and utility impact assessment. So that was an action item then for the board to consider. Item 3, landscaping has been addressed. Going over to page 4, stormwater management. Repeat the E&S control, an NPDS permit needs to be submitted and approved by DEP. There will be a requirement for a performance guarantee and financial security portion of that. There will be an operations and maintenance agreement to be executed between the applicant and the township. And there's a payment requirement for best management practice fund. So that would have to be, that's an administrative item also. Going down to miscellaneous comments. We do note the fence. We did not find a fence legend or a fence location, nor did we find a fence detail. And then item 2, again, repeats the concern on the 3 trucking spaces and how close they are to the property line, the residential property line. If these spaces are to be considered and allowed, we recommend that a note be placed on the plan that will restrict the time of day that the spots can be accessed. That there be no idling of trucks and or refrigeration trailers be allowed in those spaces. So that completes the SDE review letter.
Okay, thanks, Tom and Phil, for that overview. Hey, Scott, did you want to make any comments on the, Scott Miller, any comments on the review letter from SDE for the?
No, we had an opportunity to review this with the owner, and there isn't anything in here that he feels that he cannot comply with or address as we move forward with the plan. I do have some photographs of possible fencing. I can share that with you if you're interested. It's going to basically be a solid vinyl fence. And based on some discussions earlier with the township, it's going to be 8 feet high to supplement the landscaping that we have along the residential property. And the other items, I don't feel that we have any, we can comply with at this point.
Okay, Scott, I appreciate that. I don't know if the adjoining property owner, Mr. Mayo Lopez, he was going to join our meeting. Mayo, are you on this evening? Mr. Lopez, you there? Okay, I'm not. Yes.
This is Brian speaking. I did speak with Mayo prior, and he would be satisfied with an 8-foot high PVC fence. And Scott Miller, thank you. And I appreciate your client agreeing to that. I think it goes a long way for the abutting property owner. So I believe Mayo's concerns are addressed, and I think that fence satisfies his concern.
Okay, thanks for that information, Brian.
Brian, this is SDE 1 second. Don't know the zoning regulations for the fence height off the top of my head. Is 8 foot allowed, or should we say up to 8 feet in accordance with zoning regulations?
I can't answer that off the top of my head either, Tom. Maybe we take your recommendation and up to 8 feet if it's permitted per the ordinance.
Right, that's fine. Gotta cover everybody.
We would have no objection to that requirement.
Okay, so for all the members, we've seen this plan at least twice previously, the Tuckerton Court. And what I'm hearing are, I'll call them 2 open items that the adjoining property owner, Mr. Mayo Lopez, have raised a concern about. One was having a fence across the entire rear of the property.
Hello?
Yes, that fence be 8 feet in height. And then the second thing he was concerned about is the 3 tractor trailers that are potentially going to be stored on the south side of the warehouse, that there be no movement, no loading or no running of the tractors or trailers 7 days a week from 5 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. So I'm just offering those comments that we received from Mr. Lopez.
File in, but we'll get started until we can get.
Not sure who that was. Do any of the members have any questions either for?
Hello?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Mayo, is that you? I think that's
Yes,
Mayo.
can you hear me?
Yeah, Mayo, are you live streaming as well as using Zoom?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I clicked on the YouTube link, and I think it's.
Yeah, go ahead and mute the YouTube link. You're live in the meeting via Zoom.
I got you. Okay.
And so there's some feedback from the YouTube link. This is Mayo Lopez. Mayo, it's Jim Bobek.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you.
Okay,
I
Mayo,
apologize
you came
for
a little bit late to the party. We were just Walt Lasota was just addressing some of your concerns. Walt, I'll let you, if you want to touch just over that stuff again, I'll mute myself out again.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Mayo, thanks for joining the meeting.
Absolutely. Continue, Walt.
Just two items that I mentioned to the other planning commission members was your concern with the height of the fence that would be along the property line. And we just heard the developer say that he would agree to an 8-foot solid vinyl fence as long as the township's zoning ordinance permits that. And then the second item we discussed was the tractors and trailers that potentially could be in the 3 spaces next to the building on the south side of the warehouse, and the concern for any loading, unloading, any movement of those trailers, any running of an engine, either a tractor or the trailer, that we would probably recommend limiting that from 5 p.m., that they would not be able to do any of that from 5 p.m. to 7:30 a.m., 7 days a week.
That's excellent. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, can hear you good.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you. I was listening in on the YouTube link. I apologize. I didn't realize that I needed to be on the Zoom to interact with you guys until I saw it was on YouTube. But no, it's excellent, and I'm glad that we were able to come to an agreement without changing drastically the feel of our home and making us feel comfortable with them as a neighbor. So really appreciate that.
Okay, you're welcome. Hey, back to Scott Miller. Scott, are you okay then with those 2 additions that we would probably pass on to the Board of Commissioners?
Yeah, John Wanhammer is on as well. I have no objections, and unless he has any comments.
Well, I'll say that this is John Weidenhammer, and thanks everybody for coming together tonight and doing this virtually. I think it has the potential to help us keep this project moving, so we're grateful for that. I think the time window of no movement is too restrictive in my view, and I'd like to see it maybe opened up to say 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Something like that, because frankly, the workday for this warehouse is going to be 7 to 3. Primarily, it's a 1-shift operation. So certainly, I could see that there could be activity before 7 o'clock when they would start. And while it's unlikely that it would go past 5 o'clock, I don't think we're going to have people sleeping certainly at that time. I realize that the neighbors want quiet enjoyment of their yards in the evening, but I think it would help us if that time window would be a little less restrictive, and maybe 8 p.m. to 7 p.m. No movement, and we can certainly agree to the no idling, no refrigerating, no refrigerated trucks, that kind of thing that was mentioned in the SDE letter.
John, just a question for you. If we would agree to those times from, let's say, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., I'm assuming that's Monday through Friday only?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I can't say that there would never be weekend activity there, but this is planned to be a Monday to Friday operation.
Mr. Lopez, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you be okay with that if there was a restriction that there'd be no movement of those tractors and trailers from 8 p.m. at night to 6 a.m. Monday through Friday?
And I'm sorry, could you refresh me? What was the original proposal?
The original proposal would have been, and when I say original, that was just myself speaking, not the other members of the Planning Commission yet, but I was suggesting 7 days a week from 5 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.
Yeah, I'm okay with opening that up. I do have a concern with 8 p.m. I think that's a little late in my opinion, but we're up pretty early, so I don't have any problem with the morning hours. understanding their business. But 8 p.m. in the wintertime when it's dark at 4:30 just sounds a little late to me.
Again, I think that it's unnecessarily restrictive to have it go from 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and that we'd certainly prefer that it be later. And I think we're only talking about those 3 parking spaces as I understand it. So, but again, I think that that time frame just seems tight to me, particularly because you have the potential for truck drivers either wanting to leave early to take a trailer away or to move a trailer in that they're coming off the road. But again, we want to be neighbor friendly, but at the same time, we don't want to be unnecessarily restricted in terms of what we can do.
Hey, Walt, if I may, I agree.
Yep.
I think 5, it might be a little too early, but I don't know if there's any way we could find a middle ground. 6 or 7 would be more reasonable than 8. I'm just thinking that with my kids still in school, 8 seems a little late. And I'm not the only one. I'm not just speaking on my behalf. Just about every neighbor around us has kids of school age.
John, I don't know that you can answer this question, but I know there are alternatives to using a regular tractor to move a trailer. Are there any other options available if you want to pull a trailer out of there or back a trailer in at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night to use something other than a conventional tractor?
Yes, there are sort of what they sometimes call a jockey that they can use to move trailers in a parking facility. And while I can't guarantee that our tenant will have that type of equipment, it makes sense to me that they might, simply because they're going to be moving. The purpose of this warehouse is to be a finished goods storage facility. So they're going to be manufacturing product in their location at the intersection of Tuckerton Road and Reading Crest Boulevard, and then bringing it down to this building for storage and ultimately for distribution. So I can see that they would have some type of light vehicle to move that product. Also, and I think we had mentioned this at the zoning hearing also, I believe much of the product is going to move not in over the road kind of tractor trailers, but really in 20-foot box trucks that would just come and back right up to the loading docks and then go. So, and we're not anticipating that the 6 trailers are going to be there all the time. So that, again, this is meant for overflow kind of product storage. So again, I think that, if the vision is that there's going to be 3 trailers parked there at all times, I think that that's not an accurate portrayal of what's going to happen. But of course, I would expect that, just as I say that, there will be times when there will be 3 trailers there. So I guess you have to plan for the worst case and allow for that. But we could, if Mr. Lopez is amenable to sort of a 7 p.m. to 6, we'll make that work. Monday to Friday.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Lopez, you're okay with that 7 p.m. to 6 a.m.?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Okay, let me go around to each of the planning commission members one at a time. And at this point, I'll ask you if you have any questions of either system design engineering, either Scott Miller, from Stackhouse and Bensinger or for Mr. Weidenheimer, feel free to ask a question. So I'll call on each of you one at a time. Bob Entler, how about if I call on you first? Any questions or comments about the development?
Yeah, could you just review the waivers that they're asking for?
Yeah, they're asking for 4 waivers, and the waivers are the environmental impact study. The second waiver is the community facilities impact study. The third is the traffic impact assessment. And the fourth is the utility impact assessment. Those are the 4 studies or assessments that we normally require for, I'll call it a large scale development, and they're requesting a waiver of those 4.
Walt, what was the first again? This is Dave.
The first
The
one.
first one is environmental impact.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Walt, thank you. That's good. I'm good with those.
Frank Sabatucci, do you have any comments or questions?
Can you hear me?
I can.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, how about Kerry Good? Do you have any questions or comments on the plan?
Yeah, Walt, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I'm looking at the colored rendering that we were given this afternoon, and I don't know if this reflects the final plans or not, but the fencing is shown wrapping around the back of those tractor trailer parking spaces, so that might be a hindrance to the fire access as well as the parking spaces themselves. So I don't know if that fence should be elsewhere. And also some of the proposed tree landscaping at the north corner and then around the south west corner of the building looks like that might interfere with fire access. So I don't know if that, I know the fire chief hasn't ruled on this yet, but just things I'm looking at that jump out to me.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Scott Miller, question for you. Has the fire marshal actually seen the plan with the landscaping and the fencing?
No, we're in the process of setting up a meeting with him. The architect wants to meet with him to go over the overall fire for the building as well as the access around the building. So that's the intent, that we would do that hopefully all at one time to address that. Some of that landscaping can be adjusted accordingly, and I agree with the fencing. We can also help that end to provide adequate access around if necessary. So we can tweak that. That's not a problem.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, and Walt, just to follow up on that, do we require like stabilized turf for the grass area behind the building for the fire access, or they have to do anything to reinforce that ground?
I mean, that's typically we will let the fire marshal decide what he needs to get the weight of whatever equipment he would use behind there. So I would rely on the fire marshal to make a recommendation on that.
Okay.
Okay, Vanessa, any comments, questions?
No questions, no comments.
Okay, how about Diane? Do you have anything?
No, no comments, no questions.
Dave Hepner?
Hello.
Any comments or questions on the plan?
The thing I would say would be, strict idle signage enforcement, because I know truckers, I mean, they're going to get there, especially from out of the area, they're going to get there early and they're going to get there late. And, my concern is for the residents that have properties of value there, and they are taxpayers. And we want to ensure quality of life.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Sure.
Eva Eisenbrown, any comments or questions that you have on the plan? Eva, are you there?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Can you?
Yep, I can hear you now. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, Brian Harris, question for you. The plan then is in final form, correct? Other than these several issues or concerns?
That's correct. What will happen is, once the recommendation goes to the Board of Commissioners, the motion would be that the plan is approved based on SDE's review letter of April 15th. And then, excuse me, once the final plan and all those conditions are met, a new plan set will be sent back to us. That'll be the plan set that'll be used for recording. Typically what I do is I ask SDE to take one last look at it to make sure they satisfied the conditions. And then at that point, that is the plan that will ultimately get signed and recorded.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay, for the Planning Commission members then, didn't sound like there were a lot of questions. What I would recommend first is we would need two motions to move this plan forward. The first motion would be for the waivers that were requested. And I would recommend that one of the members make a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners that the request for the Tuckerton Court plan for the 4 waivers, the environmental impact study, the community facilities impact study, the traffic impact assessment, and the utility impact assessment, that we support the granting of those 4 waivers for this particular plan. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, this is Bob. I'd make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
That was Frank. Okay, everybody in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, sounds like the vote was unanimous. The second motion that I would need then would be to recommend to the Board of Commissioners the 1105 Tuckerton Court plan as a final plan with the following recommendations attached to that motion. First, that all of the outstanding items in System Design Engineering's letter dated April 15th, 2020 be addressed. Number 2, that a 8-foot solid vinyl fence be positioned along the entire Lopez property line. Third, that the tractors and trailers that may be stored, the 3 of them stored on the south side, that there be no loading, unloading, movement, or running of any engines from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. Monday through Fridays. And lastly, that the fire marshal has an opportunity to review the final plan, and that any of his recommendations get implemented before the plan actually becomes constructed. Do any of the members have any questions or discussions on that motion?
Walt, what I heard you address Monday through Friday. Do we need to put something in there about Saturday and Sunday?
Well, we can just say Saturday and Sunday, no movement is permitted. Good point.
Yeah, I mean,
yep.
Whatever it's going to be, but I think we should at least address it, have something in there.
Yes. No, I agree. Saturday and Sunday, no movement. Thanks, Frank. Okay, I don't hear any questions or comments from the members. If there are none, can I have someone recommend that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, the vote is unanimous. Okay, I'd like to thank John and Scott and Mr. Lopez and SDE for joining us this evening, and hopefully you can get your plan moving forward.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Yes,
You're
on
welcome to
behalf of the
drop off.
project, I want to thank the Planning Commission for, first of all, holding a virtual meeting so that we could get this done and keep our project moving. And just wish everybody opportunity to be safe and be careful. So thanks so much, and have a great rest of your meeting. We'll sign off at this point.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, is SDE being excused also at this time?
Yeah,
Hang
yep,
on.
yep, you could sign off. Have a great evening and stay healthy and safe, like John said.
Thank you very much, saying to all the board members.
Thank you.
Hey,
Good night.
And good talking to you all. It's been a while.
Yep, good talking to you, Maya.
See ya.
Good night.
Okay, back to the agenda. The other new business item, and I'll let Jim Bobick talk about this a little bit. It's a grant request that we're making of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Jim, can you give us some background on that?
Yep. So the funding that we're looking for now is through the Department of Community and Economic Development, the Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program grant, which is what we applied for in 2017. And the project we were able to complete with that funding was the improvements along the Jim Dietrich Trail, adding the electric service back to the trail that we have Riverfest on. We've got a couple of other, been working on a couple of other grants, and this one opened up I think in March. So we're going to apply for it again. This time we're looking at the Riverside Basin, which is over off of Sophianos Avenue. It's a piece of land that the township acquired in 2004, I believe. It was the old desilting basin that was run by the state. And what we're looking at doing is constructing about 2 miles worth of grass trails through two different portions of the basin that's there. Total cost is about $90,000, and it's an 85-15 grant, which is phenomenal. Basically, the state's going to cover 85% of the funding, and the township will be on the hook for the remaining 15%, which is about $13,500. The majority of that money will come from in-kind labor. We're going to do most of the work ourselves. There is some that we'll have to contract out, but that's the story.
Okay, do any of the members have any questions for Jim? What Jim's going to be looking for tonight is for us to make a motion to have the chairperson of the Planning Commission sign and forward a letter to the Department of Community and Economic Development that the Muhlenberg Township Planning Commission is in support of that project. So that's ultimately what Jim is looking for tonight.
Right.
Any of the members have any questions for Jim about what's being proposed?
I do have a couple of questions. Can you hear me? It's Eva.
Yep, can hear you.
So typically, how long does it take to get a grant? And I'm assuming then this will be after the grant that we have for the lantern flies that are going to be, those trees are going to be taken down in the basin.
We actually have many grants that are open at any one time, so we're not waiting for one to be finished before we start another. The lanternfly treatment wasn't a grant. The State Department of Ag came in and proposed the work, and they subsidized all of it. So that wasn't actually a grant. We do have, like I said, though, we do have several grants open, but the process, the timeline for this, the grants, the applications are due May 24th, I think. Realistically, we won't hear about an award until October or November.
Okay.
Which means by 2021, we'll be able to start work.
Okay, just curious on how the timeline works. And do you think with what's going on with the COVID-19 that things will be delayed?
I don't think so.
Hard to say,
Well,
yeah.
it's difficult to say. So we've got a DCNR grant application that's due next week, next Wednesday, and DCNR is not delaying the timeline, the due dates for those grant applications. Others, recycling performance and recycling equipment grants have both been delayed, but I guess it's up to each entity and how, the application process. Both DCNR and DCED are 100% online. There is no paper submission. The recycling grants both do require the grant packet to be mailed. So.
Mhm. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Any of the other members have any questions for Jim on that grant application?
Just curious, I was feverishly writing notes. So what's the silt basin portion? Because I got the electric service for the trail.
Well, that's the old one. I mean, if in regards to the minutes, I don't know that that's all that important. What is important is the Riverside Basin is where the project will take place, which is the old desilting basin.
Right.
Off
And
of Sofianos.
what are we doing there?
Constructing approximately 2 miles worth of grass trails.
Oh, okay, trail there. Okay, I gotcha. Sorry.
No problem.
Does that then become part of the township system parks?
It technically already is. It's just an undeveloped property. The parks maintenance guys have a trail that they mow periodically. There's a couple of small trails that are through there now. We maintain the shooting range that is there, so they're already working. But yes, it would become park maintenance responsibility to keep up with it. Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Jim? If not, then can I have a motion to recommend that the chairman of the Muhlenberg Township Planning Commission forward a letter of support for this grant application onto the Department of Community and Economic Development?
I'll make that motion.
Second that.
Second.
Motion and Dave, second.
I don't know. I think two of us said second.
Yeah, I know I heard Frank and Eva. Go in alphabetical order, pick Eva.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there's no questions, I had a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Not, the vote's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. And Walt,
Thank
for
you.
what it's worth, it's because it's an online submission. I can use your electronic signature. If you're okay with it, I'll plug in an electronic signature into the letter. I can forward it to you for your review.
Okay, yep, you're welcome to use that electronic signature.
Thank you.
Okay, the last item that I have on the agenda was to get an update on the comprehensive plan assessment. And won't spend a lot of time on this, but in your package, when you have a chance to look through the package, you'll find several documents. One of the documents Brian Harris put together, it's sort of, for those of you who are familiar with projects and project status, how are we doing? He put together an Excel spreadsheet that talks about what the project is, what the steps are within that project, and some due dates. So that is within your package. You can take a look at that. Primarily, of course, most of the things right now are for Frank and Bob to start working on the assessment of our existing comprehensive plan. I did ask Brian to push out the dates. I think I asked him 3 or 4 months to push them out just because of the coronavirus. It would be very difficult for us to reach out to other resources at this time. So it did push the due dates for some of these items out pretty far. So that's one document you'll see in your spreadsheet. It's just a project status update that we can use for all the planning commission members to see how we're doing. The second thing that I placed in the document is called the Comprehensive Plan Assessment. And it's a format that I thought that we would utilize for each of the teams, because ultimately I'm going to need some report that I could summarize and share with the Board of Commissioners. So I put an assessment format together. It's actually page 10 in your package. And basically what it says is that for each of those sections of the comprehensive plan that we're going to do an assessment of, for example, the first one is land use, that what we would do in the report out is we would provide an introduction. What are the main issues at use? We would talk about any policy content, background, and gaps. And again, all of this would be conversations that we have with various organizations or people. We would talk about current conditions and current trends as far as we understand them. Talk about opportunities and challenges. Talk about the initial questions that the teams used to get their information. So what were the questions? And then there's a section that we're going to call for more information. It might be survey questions. It might be past studies that were done. Might be the names of individuals or organizations that we've spoken with and their phone numbers in case we need to reach back to them. So that's the format that I'm proposing that we use for the assessment process. And then lastly, packet page number 11, I put a document together that I'm calling a potential resource list. And I just made a list of organizations that came to mind probably within a 3-minute period that we could use as a resource. So I anticipate that this list will grow over time. But the thing for each of the members to be aware of when you look at this resource list is, number one, that no contacts should be made to any of these resources or any new resources without Brian Harris or myself being aware of it. We want to try to coordinate as each of us start talking to different people in the community, coordinate that action. So none of the members should be actually reaching out until they talk to Brian or I. And then the second point I wanted to make was that any initial contact that is made with these individuals or with these organizations, that initial contact will be made by either Brian or by myself. We'll introduce, who the people are that might be reaching out to them, what they're going to be asking, just so we can make that connection with the organization.
Absolutely.
Is there any question about those 3 documents that's in your package? And you may not have had the time to look at them. For Bob and for Frank, what I would ask the two of you, what I would like to do is for Bob, maybe you take the lead, is to pick a date for you and Frank that works for the two of you, a date and a time, and we could set up a Zoom meeting between the two of you, myself, and Brian Harris, just to see what questions you might have about your assignment on the assessment part of the comprehensive plan, and see if we can help you with resources or starting to contact some of these resources for you. So if you could do that in the next week, Bob, just let Brian and I know a date and time, and we'll get something organized so that we can start having a conversation.
Walt, Bob and I had a very high-level meeting this morning. And one of the things that we talked about was the information that we got the last time. The comprehensive plan itself refers to about 15 different maps, and those maps were not there. I happen to have a couple of copies of the complete comprehensive plan with the maps from October 23rd or October of 2003. And I gave him a set of those maps. But is there anything updated in any of those maps? In other words, what we have in the 2003 plan, has anything been updated?
Well, I think you actually have two questions, and maybe Brian can answer them. One, I think Brian was going to get us copies of all the maps that were in that 2003 comprehensive plan. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah, that is correct. And in addition, most of those maps have not changed. The one map that has changed, as Bob was showing, was obviously our zoning map. There's been, some additions that have been made to the zoning boundaries, but I can get all those maps. Obviously the soil maps, the utility maps, most of the maps haven't changed, but the zoning map has changed. So I can certainly get an updated map to all the members.
Yeah, that's, I guess, the one thing. I don't want to talk for Bob, but I think that's the one thing that we would request. Only if you give us updated maps of the ones that are not current in the 2003 plan. You don't have to give us copies of things that didn't change, but that's one of the things we said. Probably the zoning map has changed, but if you just get us the most current ones, we'll go from there.
Sure
You
thing.
good with that, Bob?
Yeah, that sounds good. Any kind of update on like additional housing and developments, that have been added since then? I'm sure that probably quite a few.
Yeah, there certainly have been. Off the top of my head, I don't know how we quantify that. I think that's where the census data comes in handy. Once we get that data from the census, we're going to know all the additional units, single family versus semi-detached. So I think a lot of that will become available early 2021, which obviously doesn't really help you now, but I think that would be probably the most reliable source of data that we'd have. And Jim, maybe you can comment on that as well.
I would agree. I think we could probably all sit down and think about all the subdivisions that occurred. But the census data is going to be what is more valuable than the subdivision and the number of houses that were constructed.
This is Kerry. Another resource might be the county tax map. That gets updated showing different properties. So that might update showing where a subdivision has happened, and just as another resource.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be very helpful. I think it's pretty darn important to know, how many houses we have since then.
Well, and that census data will tell you that. So in 2010, we had 7,700, I think is the number, just going off the top of my head. And so that info, that data will all be included in this with the census data.
Yeah, just knowing where all of these developments have taken place on the map, to look at it that way.
I have a question. This is Dave.
Go ahead.
Are we speaking about physical development and expansion, or are we talking about per capita, like people, or both?
It could be anything. Could be both.
I'd say both. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the census data will give you all of that. Yeah.
I just one question: the packet. How are we going to get this packet?
You should have the things that I was talking about, these forms and formats that I was talking about should have been in an email you received this afternoon. So if you didn't get a chance to open that yet, it's in that email.
I did not get an email. And yeah, make sure that I get, because I did not also get this information about the Zoom numbers and the meeting and all this. I got it through Frank that he sent it to me. So somebody there just check my email to make sure that it is getting sent to me.
Hey, is Joe still on the meeting or not?
I am.
Hey, Joe, maybe that's something, I don't know if you get a chance to look at it for Bob. Bob hasn't been receiving the emails, and what I've noticed, and I don't know why it happened, but on my iPhone now, all of the emails that I'm getting from the township all of a sudden are going into my junk folder.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got to be careful because I usually just go junk folder, delete. And today I happened to scroll through there and there were a number of emails from the township. So
Yeah.
I don't know if there's something I need to do and Bob needs to do, but if you could let us know, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I could send you instructions on how to whitelist an email on your account to make sure that it comes through. Diane, you also have an email, an AOL, and Bob, you do as well. So that's the common theme is, I'm sorry?
I'm not getting anything from you guys.
Okay, we'll have to, it'll come from my Gmail. So it will circumvent the whole problem with, it must think our domain is spam for some reason. I mean, there's nothing I can do at our end, but there are instructions I can send you to make sure that it whitelists, and then you'll start getting stuff from the muhlenbergtwp.com domain.
Okay, well, I have my mail on AOL up right now on my computer. So send me an email now. See if it comes through.
Bob, I did just send it to you.
Check your spam, because that's where it's going on mine. Mine going to spam.
Yeah, that's where mine were going to, Diane.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, so Joe, if you could.
I just sent one as well, a test one, but I will send everybody some whitelisting instructions specifically for AOL accounts, and that'll come from my Gmail account to make sure you guys get it.
Perfect.
Bob, did you get that from me or did you get it from the township?
Hold on a second. Okay, I just got. No. There, I just got it from you, Frank. It just came in right now. The packet. Right
Okay,
there.
I wanted to make sure that you got it, but you might still need to work out the glitch with Jim.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I got it there. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have anything else on the comprehensive plan. Brian, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, the only thing that I'll mention is I did reach out to Laureldale and to Onalani regarding doing a joint comprehensive plan. I spoke with the secretary treasurer at both of those municipalities, and I'm still waiting to hear back. This probably obviously isn't a priority for them at this time. I'll also mention to Walt or to Frank and to Bob, the spreadsheet that I have, I'll send that separately to you. What you see in the packet, obviously one of the columns kind of got cut off, but the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet will be much easier for you guys to edit and to plug in, the different cells. So I will, I'll ship that over to both of you. And as soon as I hear from Laureldale and Onalani, I'll let the entire planning commission know.
Okay, thanks, Brian. That was all that was on our agenda. Do any of the members have any items that they'd like to discuss before we end the meeting?
Walt, if you don't mind, one last question for Bob Entler really quick before we end this. Bob, when you went into your spam, did you get the emails? Were the emails that I sent today in your spam folder?
Did I lose everybody?
But we're still here, Eva.
Okay.
Yeah, the email that Joe sent me, that test email, went right to spam.
Mhm.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
it's,
and
I
I
think it's,
sent out,
I think Brian, Joe hit the nail on the head. All three of us use AOL email. It sounds like it's an AOL issue. So if Joe's going to send us something, how we can fix it on our end, I think
Okay.
that's the way to do it.
I will. I'll send that from my Gmail tonight after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, everything that Brian sent went right to spam.
Yep. Same with me.
Great.
Okay, Brian, you have anything else?
Thank you, Joey, for helping me with my problems. Luckily, it went smoothly now.
Oh, no problem. That's what I'm here for.
Thanks. And congratulations, Walt, we did it. Yay.
Yeah, one down.
Right.
All right, if there's nothing else, I just want to close the meeting. I had an email from Commissioner Lurch. He was hoping to join us this evening, but unfortunately something came up and he just wanted to pass on his appreciation to each of the members for, trying out this new technology and continuing to move the township forward during these trying times. And he wished each of you and your families continued health. And hopefully soon we'll meet face to face again.
Yeah,
so with that,
hopefully.
With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Wow, look at everybody fighting for their unmute buttons. Hey, Robin, did you get it, Robin? Because I didn't.
No, who made the motion? I didn't hear it.
I did,
Second.
Eva.
There you go.
And Vanessa.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Everybody.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
have a good night. Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.